G'day and welcome to Kenty Blitz, your daily hit of NRL news. Kenty, it's Wednesday, hump day, and news overnight. You're a rock and roll man, great rock and roll man.
Yeah,
and,
I like
another great rock and roll man.
Rock and roll, I like. So,
Yeah, okay, Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah, look, terrible news, wasn't it? It's fascinating, because I've actually been watching the concert only earlier this month, which was in tribute to him. He was there, he sang, he was so affected by Parkinson's that he actually had to sit in a chair through the concert. And then a lot of people were concerned about his welfare. His family came out and denied any serious,
Is that on one of the streaming channels?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's on YouTube.
Yeah, right.
To be honest.
Okay.
But yeah, anyway, look, he's died much quicker than we thought. Very sad, like he was in a quiet taste, Aussie.
Yeah, were you a fan?
I'm not a massive fan of his music.
What about his
But
antics?
I do like the
eating bats and all that kind of stuff.
Not really my thing. I'm more a red frog man.
Yeah, okay. Very good. Well, mate, let's start it off with Kevvie's been confirmed.
Yeah, it's been confirmed. Look, we just ticked the boxes now. The interesting thing I think that comes out of it now, the NRL finally look. It's fascinating, isn't it? They didn't want to. They wanted the big announcement, and because they they got their
pants pulled down.
Pants pulled down by the media. They delayed it a couple of days to pretend that they weren't sort of being rushed into it. They've announced him.
Just kind of trickled out this morning.
Yeah, just trickled out. But what else could you do, really?
Okay.
Kevvie was talking about it on Sunday, to be honest. Thing about it, though, what I think the next step, which I'm really keeping a keen eye on, is what happens with Payne Haas,
Tino
Fasua Malaawi and
Hammer.
Hammerside Tabua Fado. All three have suggested or indicated that they might play for Samoa at the end of this season. And Kevvie's first real job now is going to be, can he convince them to play for Australia, or do they say, you know what, that's now made up our mind and we're definitely going to go to Samoa?
So how's that work?
Is that made up our mind, we're going to go play for Australia?
How's that work? Does Kevvie get on the phone to them?
Yeah, he certainly would. He doesn't have to, but I think that certainly previous coaches would have been on the phone and say, look, mate, we need you, and would have extolled the benefits of playing for Australia and what it means and all the rest of it. All three were instrumental in this recent Origin series and showed how important they are to a team. So Kevvie knows, he would be well aware of what he will miss if they don't play. I think what will happen is all three will, whatever they decide, they will do it together as
a block.
Yeah, it won't be one going to Australia and two to Samoa. I think all three will go either to Australia or to Samoa, and it's up to Kevvie now to try and convince them to stay in the green and gold colours. So that's going to be a real test. I think one of the acceptance of the players and how they receive Kevvie as a coach, and it's also going to, I think, be a bit of a test of Kevvie as a coach, and just to see whether he can sell the dream of playing for Australia, even though we know that strong bond they have through family of playing for the heritage nation. So that's going to be an important part to it.
If you're the ARL, have you got an expectation that Kevvie is interviewing for club jobs while that's going on?
Well, that's the other issue. See. I don't think he can. Now, the understanding is that it rules him out of a job next year, and that's the thing that I find fascinating. The NRL have only signed him for 3 tests, which is at the end of this season. After that, he's off contract. Now, that's clearly a trial he's on.
Okay.
So that's clearly, it's not a great show of faith from the ARL Commission that they haven't said, okay, we'll put you in the job for 3 years.
You don't think Kevvie would have said to him, look, I'd love to do it, however, I'm thinking about a club coach deal?
I think he would be. I think he's probably already put his toe in the water there as far as club coaching goes, and would have a read on what might be available and what his chances are of getting those jobs. But it is a risk. He's rolled the dice here from the point of view, if, for example, and look, we know there's a few coaches under pressure right now, and some coaches are already said to be gone, and there's a couple others that could be, depending on how they finish off the season.
I want to go through those with you in a minute.
Yeah, we'll go through them. We'll have a look at what's going on there. Now, the part about it, though, is if those jobs become available, Kevvie can't stick his hand up for them, or his manager says, look, he'll be back from the Australian job in November, but if he takes the job, look, they'll play a little bit of ducks and drakes. They won't sign anything. They won't confirm anything. The club will have to be sitting there sort of looking clueless and rudderless for a month or two, because they won't be able to name a coach, and that'll be because they'll be holding off the announcement of Kevvie if it goes that way.
Well, the problem is these bottom teams where he would be going, they're generally starting back before November.
They're starting back. Certainly they are. And certainly...
So it's mid-tour.
Yeah, there's people there who would be able to, I suppose, get the early
but if you're
groundwork done.
But if you're the Titans and you know you're
Yeah.
making these sweeping changes,
Essentially, he's cost himself a chance at these jobs.
Yeah, you're
and
right.
the thing is, these if they do get filled, they'll be filled on most likely 3-year contracts. In some cases, it might be 4 or 5 year contracts. We wait to be seen. But so from that point of view, he's cost himself a crack at it the next 4 or 5 years now. So his role, it's a big gamble from his point of view to say, okay, I've only got 3 games, 3 tests, but what I'm going to try and do is roll that into a 3 or 4 year stint as the Australian coach. Now, he might go there, and as I said yesterday, Kevvie's very good at coaching mood and temperament within a club. That's his real trick as a coach. He's not he's got other shortcomings as a coach.
Yeah, well, there's a bit of a knock on him that he's not a great coach.
Yeah, well,
but he's a great man manager.
He's a great man manager, and that's essentially, particularly when you're coaching touring teams, that's what you need. So I think I think he's backed himself to get that right and to turn this 3-test series into a 3 or 4 year tenureship as the Australian coach at minimum. Look, Mal's held it for 8 years or so he's had it for quite a time. So there is longevity there if you can do the job well, and I think he's backed himself to do that. But he's taken a risk with it, as they have too, the Australian Rugby League, because
he was kind of the last man standing, though, wasn't he?
Well, that's the issue. Like,
I don't understand how they stuff that up.
Oh, don't get me started. They had a meeting last month, or earlier this month, where they discussed the idea of letting club coaches coach the national team, and they came away in their collective wisdom with the recommendation that they don't change anything. The fact is, the 17 best coaches in rugby league are coaching clubs.
Point. Yeah, good point.
Okay, that's the truth of it.
Yeah.
Now, there might be a little bit of a crossover down at the 15th, 16th, 17th best NRL coach to someone who out there like Kevvie, who is unemployed. But there's not a lot of crossover. They don't go. It's not like there's a coach now there who's probably the 3rd best rugby league coach in the world who's not coaching a team. He's already coaching the 3rd best rugby league coach in the world. Whoever that is, whoever you think it is coaching in the NRL. So,
or in Super League, waiting to come over to the NRL.
Well, not even that.
Yeah, okay.
They're in the NRL.
Yeah,
the best
3
coaches are just here.
Yeah, good point.
The best 10 coaches in rugby league are in the NRL.
Yep.
That's what confuses me. The most prestigious coaching job in the sport is the Australian coaching job, and yet those guys are barred from taking the role to coach at the end of the season when they're not coaching the clubs anyway.
Very good.
Anyway, they know more than me.
Mate, it seems to be this time of year when we always talk about head coaches being sacked, and it happens year after year. What do you think about the whole balance within a club between the management and coaches, and who's to blame?
You know what? There's a lot to blame here. One, it's become an annual sport for the media, okay? And from the point of view, part of the media game, which gives me the shits, is in the rush to be first, they want to be the first guy to say a coach is in trouble, okay? Now, the problem with that, and they want, look at the big brain on my head, I'll tell you that this coach is in trouble. He's lost the dressing room. They can't win. They need a change, all that sort of stuff. And the first one, but that creates then a narrative. People pick it up, off they go. And people who are uninformed, they heard someone else say it, so they'll say the same thing. And it snowballs. And that starts to build weight against the coach. That puts pressure on the club. So these sorts of things. So the media are a big part of it. I think the bigger part of it, though, are those backroom bullies in clubland who are part of boardrooms and club administrations who take no accountability for a coach's failings. They will bring a coach in, they'll give him 3 years, they'll sign him up, and then if it doesn't work out, they just move the coach on, they get a new coach, they pay him out with someone else's money, and they say, look, it's all over, and they just move on to the next coach. The system is wrong when the coach bears too much of the weight of a losing club. Des Hasler on the weekend.
Yeah.
Those players could not give a rat's ass about losing the game.
Yeah.
They
couldn't pack a scrum at 14-12 in front.
But the care factor after they lost the game, they are so just blasé about it. And that's what offended Des the most, was how casual they were at accepting a loss. And that is not only at the Titans. It's riddled through the Titans, but it's not only the Titans. And every club has got probably every club's got, in varying degrees, players who are very casual towards a loss. The better clubs have less of those players, if any.
Kenty, tell me, how much does it piss you off? Because it pisses me off when your team loses. I know you don't have a team at the moment. I do. When your team loses and at the end of the game they're laughing and high-five.
I get it, mate. I get it. And that's what I'm saying. They're too casual about the game. Now, players will argue that because of the pressures of professional sport and all the rest of it, that they've learned to sort of disconnect themselves from that, which is the greatest lump of rubbish you've ever heard. Okay, you're allowed to feel the hurt of a loss. You should feel the hurt of a loss. The fans feel the hurt of a loss. They can't separate their week with a loss. The fact that the players can so casually move on to the next game is a real concern, and I think that's a Gen X thing. I'm reading a book at the moment by Bill Belichick where he talks about the care factor of his players. Now, he was the famous New England Patriots coach, very guarded about his methods and techniques while he was coaching, but now he's retired, he's written a book, and it's fascinating to sort of just read how he assesses players, and one of them was their love for the game. In fact, probably the two most important things he came up with was their love for the game. He wanted players who genuinely love the game. These guys who don't watch the game, he wouldn't take them.
Yeah, right.
Okay, he just didn't like those sorts of players in his club, in his team. And the other thing is how competitive they were and how much they hated losing. Right, he just wanted competitors. And there's too many guys in the NRL who just earn good money and think that that's all it is. And part of that's just the what they've come through, the way they've been brought up. As far as, when I say not from a family point of view, I mean that from brought up through the system, okay? It's just come in some ways far too easily for them. They think that that's just normal, and they just accept losses. But the problem is, the big picture was, which is where we started, is, I saw Watford the other night on 360.
Tim Watford, CEO of the Dragons.
CEO of the Dragons. And Dan Gannett asked him a very good question. He said, when the Dragons are a final finished product, what do they look like? What's their style look like? He couldn't answer it. He could not tell his own team supporters what a winning Dragon team's going to look like, what their personality will be.
Well, in fairness, he's only been there 2 weeks. It's a bit harsh.
Yeah, well, learn what the job is then. Know what the club looks like when you go in. And then at some point in the future, when Shane Flanagan starts to run out of all his positives at the club and they look to move him on, if they've got no idea what their club looks like, how do they find the next guy? Who do they look for in the next guy? And so it's all on the coach. The coach fails, the coach wins. Overseas, a lot of clubs, they operate in different silos where the coach coaches the team, but the general manager of football, the general manager of baseball, wherever it is, he's responsible for assembling the roster, the playing group. He does that in collaboration with the coach, but he does it independently of the coach as well. Here, we throw it all on the coach, give him 3 years. If it doesn't work, we throw him out, sack him, move on. No responsibility on us. We'll move on. We'll just get a new coach. New coach might come in, and the first coach might be, we're going to be defensive-oriented, we're going to be tough to beat. That's just what he should have said. That's what Watson should have said about Saints. Mate, right now, we're a Shane Flanagan team. We're tough to beat, which they already are, despite having very little talent. We're tough to beat. We're going to compete, and we're going to be tough, grinding, and we're going to win the hard way.
Built on our local juniors.
You want that, but you want a team that's... He's looking for a personality in the team. CEO couldn't even identify one. But what happens is, if Flanagan doesn't work, he's got no idea what his club's got to look like. He's got no idea what sort of coach he needs to get. So these coaches at the moment, there's this annual game now of any coach that's sitting in the bottom four. Everybody's after their jobs. Yeah. And the club gives no protection. because the club doesn't want to put any skin in the game. They don't want to say, well, hang on, he's our guy. We put him in the job. We told him we want this and we expect this. And from our point of view, given the roster we've handed to him, we're going to take some responsibility for that. Now, Saints have never got to win a comp with this roster they've got now. Titans, they should be making their 8, okay, with their roster. They've got a good roster, but they're not going to win a comp with that roster. And what you've got to do is you've got to sit there and you've got to say, okay, with this group of players we got, if we win the comp, who's still going to be in the team? And there's not going to be many Dragons left over if the Dragons win a comp. At some point, they will win a comp. I would go as far to say maybe a couple of those young kids they got coming through might be part of the team, but very few else. Gutherson won't be part of it. Tyrell Sloan won't be part of it. They either won't be there long enough, or they won't be able to contribute enough to get the team winning. But this annual game that goes on where the clubs just distance themselves.
So what do the bottom clubs do? How do they change that?
Decide who you are.
Right.
Decide who you are first. Find the coach that's going to fit who you are. But then what you do, that goes through the club. What you do is all your recruitment choices are made through that prism. This is the kind of footballer we want in our club. Now, whatever that style is, there's different styles that could win games, okay? Whether you play fast attacking, whether you want to be more defensive minded, there's all different styles. You don't see a lot of variation in the way they play, but your attitude towards it. It's subtle, but it's there, and that's where the differences are. But that's what you guide yourself through, and so that then that dictates every decision you make in the club. Okay, and they're not. Some clubs don't do that. The board members have got no idea about that. The people they put in place, as far as general managers, some general managers and recruitment guys, they're just old footballers who have just been looked after with a job. Like the game is supposed to be professional, but it's not. Some clubs are terrific at it. Some recruitment guys are great at it. And we spoke about, look, you've only got to look at the impact Phil Gould makes wherever he goes because he knows the job. A guy said to me ages ago when someone from Canterbury, when they were looking at Phil Gould, he asked me what I thought. I said, I'll tell you what I do. I said, he will make you better straight away. Okay, that's one of the things I said. I've said a few other things too, which shall remain nameless.
Yeah.
No, but what I'm saying is, I said he'll make you better straight away. And he said, why is that? I said, because he knows where the weaknesses are in your roster, and he knows which players to bring in to replace them, and he knows how to get your cap in order. And he's done that. He did that at Penrith, and while he's doing that at Penrith at the top level, he had all this stuff coming through at the pathways levels to bring the same sort of player in. And so when they lost Burden, they had a player to come through. Like, they had guys ready. Like Katoa, who's setting the world on fire at the Dolphins now. Penrith had him sitting there waiting for when Luai got pinched because they knew they'd lose Luai and they were going to bring Katoa in. Now, Wayne Bennett got in early, got him out of there and got him up to the Dolphins. But that was the strategy.
So tell me about the Titans, right? Because if you're the Titans, you get Desi because he can identify part of your club and where we're going. Why hasn't it worked there? Is it because the management are too soft?
I think because there's too many. No, I think the management. Look, I'm not sure about the management, to be honest with them. Okay, I don't think they've been too soft. I do know they want success there. Yep. I think they've just basically delivered the club to Des and just said, boom, there you are. But one, their pathways are a shambles. Okay, so they're not getting that right up there. But second to that, there's too many players in there who are just used to losing, who are comfortable with losing, and who are uncomfortable with Des being uncomfortable with them being so comfortable losing, if that makes sense, right? They don't like, they get upset. So what they do is they bitch and moan and kick stones, and they go around, and then suddenly they tell their manager that Des has upset them and they've got a case of the SADs, and the manager tells the media that, the players are upset with Des, and the media says Des has lost the dressing room. So suddenly it all looks like Des's problem. It's not Des's problem. There's blokes up there that shouldn't be playing. There's guys up there who are good first graders in crap teams, and that's all they'll ever be. So identify them, get them out of your club. Let someone else, let them be someone else's problem. But you've got to get people in. Look at what the Raiders are doing. Okay, they have gone through and they've just got kids who are winners. I've said this before. 3 years ago, they were winning junior competitions. The Raiders knew what they had. They knew they had this crop of kids coming through. And they thought, and these kids have been asked to play to a standard that is what the club has set them. And they're responding to it. That's what you want in the club. The Raiders get the shits when they lose. I love the fact. Look at how disappointed Harry Grant was on the weekend. Because he's a winner. That's what you need in your club. I remember when I was a kid, Tommy Rodriguez was captain of Western Suburbs. It was his last year. I think it was 1979. They were finished minor premiers. They got beat by Canterbury and knocked out after they went lost in the finals, I think. You've never seen a more devastated man. And there was a photo of him in the paper, which for reasons I don't know, I cut out and kept. Anyway, he was walking off the field and someone was shaking his hand and he couldn't lift his head. He was so disappointed with loss. And the thing is, that fascinates me about these players is back then when you worked 38 hours a week or 40 hours a week driving a truck or delivering beer, pallets and whatever you did back then, a carpenter on the tools.
Yeah.
Those guys were more disappointed with a loss when they were earning 15 grand a year in footy than these guys are now earning 400 grand a year. And they're full-time footballers. But they're the way they, I don't know, carry on and get through it is to say, oh, yeah, but you don't understand the pressure of being a footballer. Come on, mate. You've got to show some care factor. Show some care factor. And there's not enough of it. And Des has paid the price for it. Des will pay the price for it because his guys don't care as much about winning as he does.
I want to talk to you a little bit about other coaches in the bottom 8, right?
Yep.
I've got the bottom 10 here, but we'll talk about the bottom 8. I'm going to give we've got to give Jason Riles and Wayne Bennett a pardon. They're not.
Riles,
there's nothing wrong.
He's got his team on the improve even though down the bottom. Wayne's
there for life. Whatever he wants to do.
And he's coaching South Sydney A grade at the moment. He's got that many injuries, they're hardly recognisable.
Adam O'Brien?
He's in the battle. His problem, I think, is the personality thing with Kalen, which has kick-started this whole problem. But Adam O'Brien's made the semi-finals 4 of his 5 seasons at the Knights.
So what we
He's
talked
put some
about,
credits in the bank there.
What we talked about a bit before is what does he have to do? How does he change that club?
Well, I don't.
How do they become a winning club?
I think they've got to start getting back into their juniors.
Right.
Okay, because Newcastle were always famous for their juniors, and there hasn't really been. There's been a lot of blokes who have been left to go to other clubs. The Knights need to lock them all down, and they need to implement a Knights style that goes all the way down to under 15s, and just say this is how all our rep teams are going to play. This is how our pathway looks as a football team.
Yeah,
and that's what they've got to do. Okay, so he's got to jump on that. But there's not enough. If you look around the league, that's the key. They've got to look at and say, this is where we're at, and this is where we want to be, and this is how we get there. And the clubs that are making the most dramatic changes are the clubs that are doing that through that system. But there's not enough. There's not enough of it going on. The Knights have let their juniors just waste away. Again, they're another club. Saints were another nursery for junior footballers. They're struggling.
Well, when Flanagan came in, he did institute a top down coaching system, which
because he understands.
Yeah, because he gets it.
Stick with Flanagan; he'll get him there. He'll get him. A lot of the guys over there now won't be with him when he wins the comp at Saints. But if he does win the comp at Saints, they won't be with him.
Okay, so let's talk about Todd Payton at the Cowboys.
Yeah, well, he's under pressure.
Big pressure.
The big thing about Todd is when his first year or second year at the Cowboys, they're the best defensive team in the comp. Now they're the worst. That's where they've got to figure out what's happened there. Now, is that the player they've recruited? I know, like in the beginning of the season, I think he dropped. Was it Nanai? He dropped because he just said defensively he just wasn't at the level he needed to be. Now, this is a state of origin caliber player. Why is he not there? So that's got to be that's got to be their issue. Again, the problem a lot of coaches have is when they start to have they plateau with their success, they start to go in from a coaching style of if it ain't broke, break it sort of methodology to try to maintain their spot. So what they do is they come to a decision, right, these guys need some tough love this week. But instead of giving them that, they'll go, you know what, I'll keep them on side. I'll keep them happy. I'll give them a soft run this week. So they try to manage the players a little bit. And that is the death knell. That's the first step in starting to go wrong.
Yeah.
But it happens. People don't want to lose the dressing room, so to speak. So they don't want to give a guy a kick in the backside that probably deserves it. And so they just, but the players smell weakness in them. That's the thing. Players smell weakness.
Yep.
And once they smell it in a coach, you're just dead meat.
Blood in the water.
Yeah, it's really, but that's generally the beginning of the end. Now, Todd's got to get back. He's got to find a way. New coaches can come in and kick and scream and rant and train them as hard as they want. The players will cop it. But as soon as the players don't think it's working or they're not getting the return for their work, then they start to question it. And then if the coach senses that, the coach then starts to coach to that. That's a big problem. Todd's got to go back and just find out. I think he's got to, I'd like to see Todd at another club, to be honest, because I think he's a very good coach.
Okay.
But we'll wait and see.
New voice, maybe.
Yeah.
We're going to say that Wolf, Robbo are no problem. They're no chance
Not a problem at all.
Flano, you're saying
done a great job.
Yeah, he has. Yeah. And Robbo's done an amazing job, considering the
where
youth
they were, yeah.
Yeah. You're saying Flano's safe.
Yep.
The only other one is Benji at the Tigers.
Yeah, Benji's safe.
Yep.
Benji's safe because, look, he's
they
got
can't
the
blow that up again.
No, and he's got the players on side. The players are
buying in for
they
him.
speak glowingly of him. So, yeah, he's not a problem at the moment, Benj.
Okay.
And the other thing is, too, is Luai's got till, I think, April next year with his get-out clause. So
let's hope he stays.
Well, Luai's a Benji fan.
Yeah.
So they're not going to do anything with Benji.
Yeah.
While Luai hasn't. He's still got that clause active. PointsBet's new 5 for $25. Answer more or less to 5 player performance questions and get $25 odds. The fast and easy way to place the same game multi on rugby league, available only in the PointsBet app. PointsBet, built different.
Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
Of course, that's from PointsBet, built different. Kenty, got something for us?
Yeah, well, look, we had a win last week with the same game multi was.
But it was money for jam.
$4.60, eh? What about that?
Very good.
Anyway.
And you doubled that up with Hammer to score 2.
Yeah, Hammer to score 2, yeah.
Got $11.
That was $12.
$12.
So anyway, thanks to our friends at PointsBet there. This week, same game multi again. I think a Melbourne win. Xavier Coates, according to Statmate, he scored 8 tries in his last 5 games against the Roosters. Okay, so you're going to have to think he's a chance again tomorrow night. And obviously, Daniel Tupou, he scored in his last 4 games. So you put them in a multi, it's $4.90 into a Melbourne win.
Okay.
Again, I think it's a pretty juicy bet, to be fair. Odds are in your favour, I can say that.
Kenty, as is our usual Wednesday tradition, we're going to finish off today with a couple of Ask Kentys. I'll go for the first one. Just get your comment on this. Shane Brisbane. I don't like Kent, but he knows his shit.
Well, at least he's listening.
There you go. Number 2, Simon Conklin says, I watched your episode with Clint Newton. That was the prime time the other day, and he was interested in his response regarding a trade window. Do you think the parties might agree to a trade window if one of the stipulations for any trade is that all parties must agree in writing?
Well, yeah, look, that could be... But that happens anyway now. You don't know. If you get all parties agreeing, it happens anyway.
It doesn't solve the problem, I guess.
Doesn't solve the problem, no. Look, that can work. The thing is, you've got to get agreement from the Players Association, and the only way the NRL ever get agreement from them is to pay more to them. So, look, I'm not a big fan of the trade window, to be honest. I don't think it. I think we need to hold on to our contracts a little bit harder. We're asking for a trade window to stop all these mid-season trades that are happening. That can already happen if clubs or players are a little bit more staunch in saying, no, the contract's there and we're going to stick with it.
Yeah, so the NRL doesn't need a trade window if the NRL implements the contracts.
Well, exactly.
That's it.
So that's
forget about it.
Yeah, so trade window's not going to solve the problem. We can solve the problem now if we're willing to say, mate, no, you're under contract. Yeah, but at the moment, players walk trade and they kick stones until the club says, oh, we'll let him go.
I guess that's the only thing about a trade window. It does allow those players who are kicking stones an opportunity to leave. But
well, put a clause in there that if you go up and play reserve, I won't even say that, to be honest.
All right, Danny Boy 9573. This is our last one. Says, could the NRL implement some innovative policies to address the false economy that you're always talking about of the salary cap, like retention bonus for players staying at club? Well, they already do that for X years, and also financial financial bonus for the best 3 players for each club. I mean, I don't know how that gets voted.
Well, I don't know if that's going to help them because the best 3 players
are already the highest paid players.
Yeah, but the best 3 players at the number 1 club or the number 2 club are probably better than the best 3 players at number 17 club and number 16 club. Okay,
and so, also 5, 6, 7 at number 1 club are better than.
Yeah, so that doesn't solve that problem. There could be a way to do it. As opposed to, if you allow some sort of salary cap concessions, if you are further down the ladder, in overseas they get draft preferences and things like that. We don't have a draft. Here, but they could do something like that. The danger with that is generally contracts which then brings in the salary caps are for multiple years, and if a team's 17 get some salary cap concessions to get up the ladder, and suddenly someone comes in and they go from 17 to 5th, and then from 5th to 1st, and then they're going into their 4th year, we've still got salary cap concessions.
Like Canterbury.
Everyone's got it. Yeah,
well, that's kind of what's happened to Canterbury, right?
Exactly. Well, if you look at Canterbury's path, they were.
Yeah, they lost. Yeah.
Now, can you imagine the uproar right now if Canterbury was still getting salary cap concessions?
Phil Gould was sitting there with... Can you imagine it?
But, it's something to talk about.
Yeah, very good. All right, that's it for us Wednesday night. Kenny, what do you do now? You got no darts on Wednesday nights?
Starts again in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
So it won't be.
Are you practising or?
Practising heavily.
Very good. All right, that's it for us. One more day tomorrow. See you then. Bye-bye.